I think my biggest thing is to just do it. Don't say no. Always say yes to opportunities. Because I mean, if I had said no, that seems like too big of a project, then I wouldn't have been a part of it. Maybe I would have been a PA for a couple of days, but I wouldn't have signed up to do every day because it was a big commitment. But I did it, and we got it done, and so I'm proud of that. And then once you've said yes, make sure you're prepared.
Welcome to This Train, the podcast, where we talk about all things related to the making of the movie This Train. Today's special guest is Jonathan Williams, Director of Photography. My name is Jack Luger. I'm the writer and director of the film, and I'll be your host. Hello and welcome to This Train, the podcast. My name is Jack Luger, the host. I'm with John Williams today, or Jonathan Williams,
Yep.
our Director of Photography, and asked John to come in and just talk about some of the experience of what it was like working on an independent film. And so we're going to go through some of that pre-production, production, and I'm trying to think what I called upon you for post-production, but really those 2 weeks especially, but there was a lot put into building up. So, John, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So far, so good, John.
Yep.
All right. Let's go back to the very beginning. My recollection is you were in my office. You were a senior here at Anderson University, and that's when I asked you if you were interested in DPing a feature film.
Yep.
Does that sound familiar?
Yep.
What do you remember?
I don't remember how the events happened, but I know that my last semester I was doing an independent study about lighting. I don't remember if you talked to me about it before I had wanted to learn about lighting, or if you saw that I was interested in lighting and then asked me. I don't remember what that order was.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what month that was. I'm guessing it was second semester.
Mm-hmm.
We shot in July of 2022.
Yep.
So I think probably close to the beginning of 2022, I talked to you about it.
Yeah.
We did the read-through in February, and I know you came to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm thinking that as you were kind of working towards doing your independent study in lighting, and I'd seen other stuff that you'd been diligent about doing, I approached you about working on the film.
Right.
Does that sounds familiar?
Yeah.
That's the story we're going to go with.
Yeah.
So, one of the things for me as I was trying to process how we were going to put this together, and as I recounted with Ed, the original concept of the film started with this idea of shooting on my own camera equipment, much more guerrilla style run and gun, and I was going to direct. I'd written it, directed it, and I think at some point originally I thought I'll just shoot it too. Not particularly my skill, as you have probably noticed over time, but I know enough to get in trouble, or I know enough
Right.
to kind of get through.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm focused on that. But the problem with a feature film is that when you wear too many hats,
Yeah.
you're bound to get in trouble somewhere.
Right.
So I think as we started the process of putting things together, somewhere in the process, I was wise enough to say, this is probably not going to be good if I'm trying to do both direct and camera operate and light and all that. And so, knowing your interest, your passion, and how hard you work, that's why I reached out to you, knowing your skill set. And so, so that's kind of where it all came from. And on top of that, here at the university, we had just acquired, or in that semester, we were acquiring an Arri Alexa
Yep.
Mini LF. And so by acquiring that camera, that changed the game completely.
Yeah.
There is no guerrilla filmmaking, run and gun shooting with a camera like that.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
So that's where that all came into play. So we did a read through, and you came to that. We had students as well as we had some outside actors come in and do the reading for us. What do you recollect about that read through? Was it helpful for you as a DP to kind of hear some voices to the script? What had you read the script by then?
I don't believe I had read the script before the read through. I honestly don't even remember if you had asked me to to be DP before reading it, that like through the read through. But maybe you did, because otherwise I don't know if I would have came.
I think I did by that point, and probably when I asked you, I said, "Oh, we're doing a read through on this date." But
Yeah,
again, it all gets fuzzy over 2 and 3 years.
Right,
But
it's
but
been
I'm
a
pretty
while.
sure I did. Yeah, because you may not have come. JC would have showed up, your wife.
yeah,
Just because she's much more supportive of the work I do, because she's interested in writing and so forth.
Yeah.
She might have shown up for that. But
right.
but yeah. So after read through, do you remember kind of what went down there?
I don't really remember my thoughts. I know I was excited because I was like, okay, this is a good story. I'm excited to see what we make of it on the screen. So, and
Okay.
that was my job, is to make the screen. So,
Right. Okay. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, so what are some initial thoughts when I approached you about it? Did you think I've never done something this big? Only worked on student short films or
Yeah.
did some of my own personal stuff, or did you think, yeah, I've got this?
I don't think my thoughts were I got this.
Okay.
I think I went straight home and just started watching YouTube videos, trying to learn like what is the role of DP, like what do you do on set, trying to figure out who I'm gonna need to help, like how many people do I need helping me with how fast we were trying to shoot the film, and what my duties were. So because I had never done a feature film, I had done many short films where I was kind of maybe the director and DP both at the same time. But I've never been just the DP on a feature film, obviously. So I was nervous at first, but I just spent as much time as I could learning on what do I do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was one of the things that encouraged me was that you took it very seriously.
Mhm.
I would have expected nothing less. I wouldn't have approached you if you didn't. But that made my life easier.
Right.
Right, to be able to just hand it off to you and know that aspect I didn't have to worry about. And actually, it was really, for me, a really good partnership because it helped me stay on task,
Right.
to get certain things done that I needed to get done as a director, to share information with you. And we even also, in pre-production time, we also sat down a lot together and mapped out locations and what lighting schemes where you were needing to put lights so that I could make sure that when I was setting up plans for where I was going to put the camera and how I was going to shoot something, that it would work.
Yeah.
Right? That was really helpful for me because we spent time at McDonald's and
Yep.
Falls Perk and
I think we went to Panera a couple times.
Panera. I think we went to Jackrabbit at least once.
Yeah.
Where we would sit down and at one point I was breaking down scenes by myself.
Mhm.
But then there were times we'd sit down, then I'd show you, and you'd go, well, the window's over here, or to be able to set this light here, or to be able to do that, I'd really rather shoot from this direction. So we would reconfigure some of those setups, which that was really helpful for me because, again, taking on a task this big, I know what shots I need, and when you're doing an independent film, we have time, which forces us to shoot more simply than maybe we would otherwise.
Yeah.
Right? Let's put a dolly shot. Why don't we do cranes or whatever, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're just putting on the sticks.
Yeah.
We're shooting from this angle, and let's get the basic coverage. And then we can figure out or see if it works another way or something. But we are with the independent world. You are forced to make sure you have the proper coverage.
Yeah.
And I've recently seen some people talk about people are obsessing about coverage. And I just know from my experience as a college professor, and we talk about this with our students, and too often we get into the editing room without the proper coverage.
Yeah.
I'm still a big believer in your basic coverage, and then if you want to get, if you want to at that point get creative, or you have time, which rarely did we ever have time, then you can do something more outlandish. Do this big one shot or this big moving dolly shot, but. The quality of equipment that we have to work with, we don't have the J.L. Fisher dolly, and a dolly grip to manage all that. So we were, using much more restrictive equipment. Right. So that kind of helped bring things back to reality of, here's what we have to use. And so we did do some dolly shots. But yeah, there are many, many challenges that we couldn't adjust to based on the equipment we had.
And those dolly shots we obviously planned in June, the month before, when we were doing all that planning. Anything we were doing creative was all planned ahead of time, so we knew exactly what we were doing. It wasn't like, okay, we're shooting this scene, what shots are we going to get on the day of? Because we would have gotten done if we had done it like that.
Right. Yeah, and that's what we did for the 3 or 4 weeks before I was mapping out, but as the time to production gets closer, the more you're pouring into it, the more you're putting into it. And so there was definitely that period of time where we were just, meeting a lot and working through scenes and getting closer to getting all basically 101 scenes that we had in the film, planned out. How many shots were we doing for each scene, writing it out in our script and breaking it down so that I could have Callie, our first AD, hold on to that for me and make sure we were covering all those shots. And I can't preach enough, and I think that most production people would reiterate this, that you can't spend too much time in pre-production planning out that stuff, right? We know that there are times on the set where we had to go, okay, we don't have time to do these 4 shots. Which one do we need? What do we have to do here? But overall, because we knew each of our shots, we got each of our shots. We got the coverage we needed, and I lament not getting more more cutaways. And and then when we did get a cutaway, making sure it actually matched to what was happening in the bigger scene, but a bigger shot. But overall, because we planned it out, and that's where we really worked together, and you kept my feet to the fire, that really helped make sure that when we were in production, things went more smoothly. So other than the time that we spent doing pre-production and kind of mapping things out, was there anything else that you were glad that you had done in the process and preparing for that actual production time that you're like, wow, I'm glad I did this? Or maybe there's something you go, wow, next time I would do these things.
Right. Yeah, I think the biggest thing was just learning, because I had never done this. So it was the biggest issue for me, like the biggest hurdle I was having was, how do I set up lighting quickly? How do I do film lighting in general? Because, I had shot some films, but there were things that I didn't like on the end product. So just watching YouTube videos from professionals who, are out in Hollywood making YouTube content about teaching lighting and how to behave on set, how to be professional and get things done quickly was really important.
Okay. Yeah. A Hollywood film maybe shoots 3 pages a day or whatever.
Yeah.
We were shooting 8 to 10 pages a day.
Right.
Sometimes more. So we didn't have union rules to restrict us on certain things. But yeah, so time was of the essence. When we would stop one shot and set up for a next, right? You had the pressure. And you didn't have a massive crew helping you move lights, right? You were moving lights, and Hannah was moving lights, and Roger, who was our sound guy,
he would also help
move lights. Occasionally, I might step in there to move something.
Yeah.
But while you're setting up that, I'm looking at my book, trying to figure out what's our next shot that we're doing, and talking to actors, making sure that they're prepared, because they may be moving lights too, occasionally, right? everybody steps in to help out when you're doing a micro budget feature like we did.
Like when we were crashing and going to the next location, everybody was grabbing gear. It wasn't just actors. Okay, you can go chill. It was no, you got to help grab stuff.
Right. Yeah, there was no trailer that they got to go sit out and relax and even look at lines. Okay, so obviously, before we actually started production, though, you and I went out with Roger occasionally, with Hannah, Ed occasionally, and we were, as I say, chasing trains, which really means we were waiting on trains.
Yeah.
What's your recollection on trying to capture footage of trains?
I think my biggest memory was the first time we tried to go out. It was just you and I grabbed the camera and just went up north to some railroad. I don't remember who had told you about it, but we were like, we'll probably find a train there. And I don't remember how long we were there. We had to have been there at least 2 hours, just standing out in the sun with the tripod right in the middle of the tracks, just waiting to see a train come.
Yeah,
and
90-degree
it just
weather.
never came.
We waited. Yeah, we had gotten word that, there are trains there all the time. Right. What we've discovered is there are trains everywhere all the time when you at least want them.
Right.
When you want them, that was the tough thing. Yeah, so we spent that first day, and we went up north, didn't find any, finally gave up there, and then we came down.
We had to walk pretty far, too, for some reason. I don't know why we walked so far down the track.
Yeah,
but
I think we were trying to get away from the street that was crossing that
Okay.
tracks there, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, it probably. We didn't know which way the train was coming.
Yeah.
Either, right. So you were looking one way, I was looking the other. 90-degree weather, just sweltering. But so we came down to the cemetery then, Anderson Memorial Cemetery.
Yeah.
And there's some tracks behind the cemetery. And so we went there. I think we did finally catch a train that day. It may have been footage we actually used of the train, possibly. So then we went out there again another day. I think we caught a train. We went there pretty early one morning.
Yeah.
Caught a train.
Because I think you lived somewhere near that track way down, and you knew that they came in the morning pretty much every day.
Yeah, I did in my book, write down. I would sit outside in my patio, and around 8 o'clock, I could, 7 and 8 o'clock, I think I would hear usually a train whistle. So we got up earlier in the morning and tried to catch.
Yeah.
I think we caught one.
Probably.
And then we sat on the track again for 2 hours, and no trains came by. As I said to Ed earlier, I said, "Wow, I thought we were really in trouble on trying to capture these trains when we needed to during production."
Right.
But when it came to that moment that we needed trains when we were doing production, we never really had to wait very long at all, did we?
We really didn't.
Crazy. So divine intervention on train schedules and so forth, because I think about the final shot of the film where they're sitting in the grass watching the train go by, and we went to shoot another scene there and thought, well, let's knock out this angle, and then if we hear a train, we'll go change it. Well, literally, we didn't even get the camera set, and we hear the train whistle, which was good because I was always afraid we would be setting up, unloading the van. And that's when we hear the train whistle, and we're like, we're not ready yet, right? But everybody was ready, and so we reset the camera, and I quickly blocked out where Ed and Julia would walk, and nailed it, right? And as soon as we started to change for the other scene, a train came by again, right? And so 3 trains came by in like 20 minutes. And we knocked that shot out, and each one was perfectly done. So I was like, I think I took our first shot that we did of it anyways. So
Nice.
it was... so for the most part, the train shots, which we thought would be this hard challenge to get, I mean, that day actually we got done 2 hours early, and we're like, oh, we can't get to our next location yet for a little bit, so we had to take our time actually.
Yeah, I think we stopped at the gas station on our way over and got some snacks.
Yeah, we got snacks, and then I was trying to find hot tea. Julia wanted hot tea, and we didn't know where to go, and so finally we went to Wendy's, and I ordered. I said, "Do you make hot tea?" And they go, "Oh yeah, sure." They did not make hot tea. They took their sweet tea and put it in the microwave or something. It was the nastiest.
Oh my goodness.
It was not good. So it was somewhat comical. All right. Well, so we spent some pre-production days. We did take the camera out and do some tests.
Yeah.
Right. We always had to remember to bring the lenses. We did have a faux pas one time where we
Yep.
got out with the camera and didn't have the lenses, but we made do with that moment. We were going to shoot. Ed and I recount how we were going to have a truck for Ricky's vehicle, and the truck didn't want to ever go. So we got very little truck footage and pre-production, and had to cancel on that. And
Yep.
and then instead we went to Jim Rendacey's 69 Chevelle, and so we did car shots after main principal production of driving and so forth, instead of beforehand. We also ended up at the tracks at night one time before production began, and we shot the scene where Ricky walks out onto the tracks at night, and that turned out pretty good, I guess.
Was
right?
that the day that we thought that was like a dead railroad that no trains hardly ever come on, and then as we're like parking, we hear a train horn off in the distance?
I'm trying to remember. We had one time where we showed up there and the train was just then going by, but yeah, really that track was like supposed to be not really used.
Yeah.
I think we got there twice where it. I think that may have been the time. I'm trying to remember too. That may have been the time where the police officer drove up and we thought, "Uh-oh, are we in trouble?" And he goes, "Did you guys hear some gunshots?"
Oh, no.
We're like, no, I don't think we did. But so anyway, he was cool, and we didn't get shot. So that's all good news. All right, so production begins. We have 2 weeks of production. The first day we're shooting at Park Place Church.
Yep.
On the 9th of July, and I guess we were there the whole day, right? We didn't have any other locations.
Yeah, I think we were there the whole day.
And so we had 4 or 5 scenes in that location that we were shooting of a men's group, kind of a therapy counseling group or something like that. What do you recollect about that first day of shooting?
Biggest memory is that we lost our audio for the whole day.
Yeah, we lost 90% of it. We had one scene that we shot after the whole thing crashed that we that did work.
Didn't it crash again the next day too?
So then we did it the next day, and everything that we shot outside, which we had to ADR anyways because of car noise and so forth. We did lose all that sound, and then we got a new Zoom mixer.
Right.
So that was. I mean, of all the things that could go wrong, that was probably not great, but it could have been worse.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't our camera. We didn't lose any video images. We just lost audio, which we were able to ADR, and for the most part, pulled that off, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't your area specifically, so it wasn't your problem. Although anything technical, I always came to you if I didn't know what was going on, or we would kind of powwow about it.
Yeah.
What do we do here? So we lost audio, but any aspect of the lighting, camera work that stood out?
It's hard for me to remember what lighting we did for each scene, especially without looking at it. I don't know how much lighting we really did in that room because both walls had just doors that were just floor to ceiling windows. So I think we just utilized that lighting for the most part, and then I think I'd bring in one of these like 4x4s for close-ups and stuff. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it was pretty easy.
Yeah. I do remember one of the types of lighting we did was what we call cove lighting.
Yeah.
Right. So you relied on that, I think, quite a bit.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain what cove lighting is?
Okay.
And how you're using it.
Yeah, I think cove lighting is a term deemed by Roger Deakins. I don't know if he came up with it or if it's just the thing that he uses most. And it's basically where you just have lighting pretty much all the way around your subject. All the way from the key side, all the way kind of wrapping around to the fill, so that you just have very soft, natural-looking lighting. And I try to utilize that as much as possible, just because going for a drama look, nothing sci-fi or anything crazy, just natural. So like interiors, I would set up my key kind of on the key side, and then maybe I'd set up like 2 more lights straight in front that were like dimmer. So then they kind of wrapped around the fill side of the face.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I remember we did where Ricky and Conrad are talking at the coffee table.
Yeah.
That scene, a portion of the scene, I guess I'm trying to remember. I think both times we probably shot with the Cove lighting there. But yeah, otherwise that was a big room with a lot of light coming in from windows from both sides. So you had certain challenges and you work with what you got, right? Then we that last day we went into the hallway, which was maybe 10 feet wide, maybe 12 feet wide, something like that. And we were trying to put a camera and a few lights in there to get it to work. I think the setup worked pretty well, all considered. I mean, there was a moment where I was like, man, I wish I'd gotten a different choice on a shot or two.
Yeah.
Right? That was one of those where you go, oh, if I could do this one, I'd get this one more shot. But we got it, and we I'm trying to remember what time we started that morning. I can't remember, but I know that we said we'll be out by 9 p.m. And I think we officially finished shooting about 9:30, so we were actually probably out by 10 that first day.
Yeah.
But I think, if I could do that again, would I shoot all those setups on the first day?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if it was harder or as compared to other days of shooting in locations, was that a harder location for you or an easier location?
I think it was easier for the most part. That hallway scene that was like up those stairs.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my least favorite looking scenes just because it's such a plain hallway. So there was really no depth going on. It was just light blasting straight onto a white wall.
Clay, fortunately, lasts about 30 seconds.
Yep, that was good.
But yeah, I mean, because one of the things that we teach usually when you're doing a production is you want to try to do something easy on your first day, easier. For me, one of the hard parts, and as a director, was I was also managing extras, and so that was a scene where we had 6 or 7 extra guys for the men's group, and I'm always concerned, that am I wasting people's time? I don't want to waste people. I appreciate, because they were working for free, and we had guys that came from Cincinnati, and a guy that came from South Bend, and they were driving 2 or 3 hours to get here to help us out just as an extra.
Yeah.
So I was I would always have that in the back of my mind, keep moving, don't waste their time. And really in hindsight, that would be ask my first AD to do more of that. So John, let's talk about your favorite moment in the production and maybe your least favorite moment when you watch the film now, what you were really proud of.
Yeah. I think my favorite scene in the actual film is the moment where he's in the bar singing for the first time. That is the first time, right?
Well, he goes in and meets with them to set up the singing.
Yeah.
Which is really the first time, so it's the second time he's in the bar.
So the second time he's in the bar, he's performing in front of the crowd, and it kind of does this cool transition with the music into the night scene of him on the train tracks, and that scene is it's interesting to me. It's dramatic. First time I saw you show it to me, it gave me chills, and I think every time I've watched it since, I still get chills watching that scene.
Yeah, and part of that scene wasn't planned out to be able to merge the image of him singing with him standing at the tracks, but with the beauty of 4K, I was able to shift and shape so that the shape of his head matched. So as we dissolved from one to the other, and then Benji and Ed did a great job with the score to kind of match that up, so we could kind of go from diegetic to non-diegetic sound. Oh, there we go. Some cinema studies content right there.
I'm sticking with that. We planned on doing that.
We planned a lot, but and some of that's to me that's the beauty of editing, though, is where you see things differently.
Yeah.
Right. where I tell Ed, I spent a lot of time saying solve the problem when I was in the editing room, where I was like, these aren't matching. Solve the problem. How do I solve this problem? And every problem got solved. Not always perfectly, but pretty darn well, especially for the pace we were going at. But yeah, that's one of those moments. And that the night scene on the tracks with the red lights and so forth was something we shot before principal production began, right? So it was all kind of part of that flow of workflow, just getting things done. Moments that you go, I don't know how we survived. I hated that moment.
There was the day we were shooting the church scene that was probably my most frustrating day, because we had spent so much time in the sanctuary that we didn't have time for the scene outside the sanctuary, because when we went outside to shoot, we were wanting to do that scene outside, but of course at AU there is a marching band practicing, so we couldn't shoot outside that day. So we had to pivot and move to inside, and we didn't have any lighting prepared for that, so we just turned on the house lights and just put the camera where we wanted it.
Yeah, we improvised there.
Yeah.
You know, and I had to do a lot of sound work on that space too, and that's one of my nemesis was just trying to get sound quality enough. I'm trying to think. I may have ADR'd a couple things for that scene, but yeah, it was the scene that was a scene. It was a bit of a struggle, but it wasn't one we could just cut out, because it's the invitation.
Yeah,
it happens to hey, come to Dad's tonight, and so had to have that scene in there. So yeah,
and it involved Julia, so we couldn't just
Right.
shoot it another day.
Yeah, and Julia was we were on a tight frame to get everything she was doing done, and not really easily, couldn't do ADR easily with her. I mean, there's probably some ways we could have solved it differently, but those are the things, the challenges you face when you're making something like this and trying to make the best decision possible.
Yeah.
And again, we made a film, which that's a monumental task in itself, right? So, John, to wrap up, what are some things that you would give advice to maybe somebody just out of school, film school, getting ready to get an opportunity to DP? What kind of advice would you give them?
I think my biggest thing is to just do it. Don't say no. Always say yes to opportunities. Because, I mean, if I had said no, it seems like too big of a project, then I wouldn't have been a part of it. Maybe I would have been a PA for a couple of days, but I wouldn't have signed up to do every day, because it was a big commitment. But I did it, and we got it done, and so I'm proud of that. And then once you've said yes, make sure you're prepared. Because, I mean, if I had just said yes and then showed up on the first day of shooting, and had never touched the camera, we would not have gotten the film done in 15 days, not even close. So,
yeah. Well, that's one of the things I remember vividly is you and Hannah coming in and practicing, even just setting up the camera and tearing it down.
Yeah.
Right? So that the first time you guys set up the camera and all the pieces that go with it, what took you 25 minutes to do or so?
Probably, yeah.
Right? So that when we got to production, you guys were pretty quick within 10 minutes. I think you guys could set up everything.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's all these little extra things that go on the camera that we couldn't just leave on every day. You had to tear it down every day and put it back, in the case and so forth. So you guys were really good at that, but you came in and did camera tests, and we took the camera out and did some tests and did some practice shots, some that actually did make it in the film. Mm-hmm. You guys used that time though to prepare, so that when we got to actual production day and all crew and actual actors were showing up, we weren't waiting on you to figure something out.
Right. I think we were, when we started practicing, I would get my phone out and start a timer, and I would be like, okay, you do these 3 tasks that are included with setting up the camera, and then I'll do these 3 because they're separate, so we can do them at the same time, so we're not waiting on each other. And then that didn't quite work, so then I would have her do one of my things, and I would do one of hers, because maybe I was faster at doing what she was doing, or she was faster than what I was doing. So we found the fastest way for the 2 of us to set up the camera, and got that figured out as soon as we could.
Yeah, that was it's such these little things, right? We do a film camp here at Anderson University every summer for high schoolers, and one of the things we're doing is practicing cable management.
Yeah.
Something as as unexciting as cable management, and how to wrap up the cords at the end of production so that you're not getting them all tangled and so forth. And I posted a picture of that or a video of that on line, and somebody said, "You're practicing picking up things for film camp?" And I said, "We sure are," because this
is one of the most important parts.
It will make or break your production.
Yeah.
If you've got somebody that's not doing it right, they don't know how to do it, it slows things down. You come back to get it the next day, it's a mess.
Yeah.
All these little things that you don't have time to deal with, right? That seem unimportant. But getting that camera set up, especially something that big, and it's the most important tool that we have in the film, right? In making a film. Because if we don't have that, we can't get anything, right? We might as well not show up. So, yeah. Any final recollections or thoughts on the film that come to mind?
I don't think so.
Nothing, huh? Okay. Could trying to get that little piece, that little diamond from you. All right. Well, let me just say how much I appreciate what you did for the film.
Yeah.
There isn't a moment where I look at it and think, if only I had somebody else shoot this. Or I knew I could rely on you from beginning to end, and even to this point. You've always been willing to help and do excellent work. I wish I had more money to pay you. And so future projects, I hope that we do work together again in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
To see you grow in your career and your skill level, I think the sky's the limit on your abilities. So I knew that when I hired you, and it was, you proved it in production.
Yep.
So I appreciate that.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, it was a good time. So hopefully we'll do it again soon. Thanks for listening to this Train the Podcast, our conversation with John here, and being our cinematographer for the film and camera operator. Very obviously extremely important role, and just appreciated his work. Join us again next time. We'll talk to other cast members and crew members. It's been fun. It's a fun time reminiscing. So we'll see you again soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of This Train the Podcast. Please check out future episodes where I talk to other members of the cast and crew. Until then, take care.